people, thanks for joining me. I'm Scott, and I've got a beautiful Martin Shenandoah here. It's a HD 2832, serial number 478013. It is Martin and Company. It's hopefully we can get the truss rod working, the neck straightened, a little action lowered a little bit here. The bridge plate needs fixed, and mostly it's going to need a heel cap. So this bridge already has these little slots cut in it to give the strings a better break angle, because the saddle is really only about 2 millimeters projection above the wooden bridge. But you'll see the A string, the wraps are starting to come up onto the saddle. And that's indication of a damaged bridge plate. Actually, I think the G string's probably worse. G's the worst. Let's look inside. Good news is, I know I can take a full millimeter off on the treble side of this saddle and it'll probably sound just fine. Play a lot better. So when I said the main thing this guitar needs is a heel cap, what I meant was that's the main reason he brought it into the shop. I would like to point out, this is going to be a nice loud guitar. I mean, it already is, but it's going to be a nice outcome. This is a solid wood top. See how the grain comes down and it wraps around uninterrupted? Let me show you the difference between a solid spruce top and a laminated or plywood spruce top. You know what? I have 6 guitars right here. There's one over on the workstation. All 6 of them have solid spruce tops. That sucks. Actually, wait, I got one. It's my thumb. Yes, my thumb, which is a Gallagher copy. The Doc Watson Gallagher. A Birdland thumb. It has a plywood top, and it's kind of hard to tell. Let me show you how. Okay, if you look at this edge, you should be able to see 3 different layers. Light color on the top and the bottom, and a darker color in the middle. It's a 3-ply laminated top. And you can only tell right here on this area up towards the fretboard. You can't really see that anywhere else on it. There's another way you can tell if a plywood has, or if a guitar has laminated sides and back, and I'll show you what that is. Now let's look at my Gibson LG1. It's a 66, and well, one thing you want to look for on a plywood back and sides is to see if it has any cracks. If it has any long cracks, it's probably solid. If it doesn't have any cracks, it might be plywood, because plywood doesn't crack up like solid. But what you can find on these plywood, laminated wood guitars are these little cracks going along the grain, everywhere along, all of it, all on the finish, little cracks. That's an indication of a plywood build. I see that a lot. You can feel it. But see, the top is solid, it doesn't have that bumpiness. Just on the sides and back on the Gibson. Actually, not so much on the back, just on the sides. I think the back is solid, top and back are solid, sides are plywood. I did a video on my LG1 a few months back, and I hadn't actually made the final saddle at the time that I finished that video, and now that I've finished it in unbleached bone, or bleached bone, I wanted to show you guys what that saddle looks like. The action was a little funky. I thought I was going to have to do a fret job on this guitar, because the treble side has a little more relief in it than the bass side on the fretboard and the frets. Not a ton, just like 4 or 5 thousandths, and it felt really awful. But the real problem was that the saddle was too flat. It didn't have enough of an arch to it. So once I got this proper arch on the saddle, it's great. I love the way this one feels now. This one's kind of weird. This is the Cole Clark Fat Lady, and it has a solid bunya top. It's an Australian guitar, and not only is it solid, but they're like 4 millimeters thick. And good thing too, because the guy here really put some scratches in her. And that's like halfway through the 4 millimeters. This is got to be the thickest top you've ever seen. And look at the bottom, the back of the guitar. It's carved. Now all that glue, that's from where I just glued up the side. This one was in a horrible state of disrepair, and I've got it all finished up pretty much, except if I have to put in the frets. I'll put in the frets and finish her all up, but I got the binding on, sides and back all glued back together, and I've got a little finish repair to do on it, but we'll see what happens. Okay, he wanted something a little fancier than the vintage deal, so I got this black, white, black. Well, that's what he asked for, white, black, white. And I cut these out on the bandsaw. Roughly shaped this one on the disc sander, String Tech disc sander for the drill press. And I scuffed this up with 220. And now I'll need to scuff up the black with 220. I take a little bit of acetone, I take a little bit of bindol, clean that up a little bit. A little paste wax here. So these are radiused blocks, radiused on the bottom. Place them at the 12th fret and the 1st fret. Place my board over top of that. Come in at the 6th and 7th fret. Clamp it down. And the reason I'm doing this is to get a slight back bow into the neck. That helps straighten the truss rod. Well, usually a truss rod that hasn't been adjusted in a few years, I'll try to give it a little hand. Makes it a lot easier. And this one is a 4 millimeter hex wrench. It adjusted pretty easily without giving me too much grief. Ended up with about 5/1000ths of an inch relief in the neck once the strings were back on it. Yes. As I loosen the clamp, you can see the headstock start to come back up. Spring back into action. It's not unusual for a neck to have a back bow when the strings are not on it. Can't get a feeler gauge in at the 6th fret, and you can kind of rock it back and forth like a teeter-totter over the middle side. You get a little feeler gauge in at the 1st fret sometimes. What we'll do here is wax it up the Johnson's paste wax. Make sure that CA glue doesn't stick to it too bad, hopefully. And we'll give it a little squirt of the accelerator. What we got here is the prop jack with the rubber coated magnet. We've got a foam block inside just like this, and a brass jack. Both jacks are jacked up with adequate pressure. Now we can also see what's going on right under the bridge plate, or right on the bridge plate with this mirror. Here we go, we got the maple fibers. I create the fibers with a fine wood rasp on the edge of a hard rock maple board. You don't want to take end grain off of a belt sander or something, because you'll get really, really fine dust. And that's not what this is. This is like fibers that are like the shape of elbow macaroni, if you look at it really up close, magnified. So they kind of weave together, they interlock with each other once the CA glue is added. And the CA glue that I use is the StewMac number 10. It's water thin, and I put 2 drops in each hole. And this was the very end of that bottle that I've been using all year. I had a brand new bottle ready to go. Accelerate her, accelerate you, accelerate me. And there it is, guys. It's all plugged up nice. I mean, this is just a matter of minutes. And we've got the bridge plate ready to be re-drilled. So what I do these days is I come in with the 3/16, go down about 1 millimeter, and then I change out the bit to something smaller. Now I'll go all the way through with this one. Then I'll do 2 consecutively bigger bits. To widen without chipping it out on the inside. I'm just gradually widening it. And then finish it off one more time with the with this bit. 3/16. And then come in with the tapered reamer and ream it up. And here's a look at how clean it looks. It's not blown out in any way. I didn't have to use a backer piece on the inside. I'll continue with all 6 string holes, or peg holes, and we'll be ready. Just want to come in here and finish things off with the reamer. Absolutely zero tear out on that bridge plate. Zero. Also like to come in with a little saw. A little file. Go in with a little bit of sandpaper. Alright, so I just cleaned off the sawdust with a little bit of naphtha, and that's why it looks kind of wet. But when it dries, it'll look just right. And that would be right now. So let's string her back up. Here's everything that was used in the process of that repair. The foam block with the center line on it, and this is called Press and Seal Cling Wrap by Glad. This actually needs another fresh piece. The thinnest super glue that is available from StewMac, 2 accelerators, sanding block with 220 grit. If you're cheap and you can't afford $100 for a pair of prop jacks and a rubberized magnet, you could find a way to maybe put a magnet in one of these cheapos and just, cover up a magnet with something felt or something soft. And here's the 3 drill bits that I used. This brad point bit is typically what you use on a bridge plate, 3/16, and then I have the 3 smaller sizes. So I start with this, I drop down to here, and I work my way back up. And that keeps everything on center, and it keeps everything from blowing out. Now this guitar is going to need a new set of bridge pins, and they're the type with the black dot on them. Here's the old ones. Looking pretty raunchy. Also, the nut fell right out, so I'm going to put a little bit of tight bond on here. I put this back in. So it's new pin day and nut be glue day. And we'll see what he sounds like. A little tight bond original. Get the nut back in her. And I almost forgot, I need to take 1 millimeter off the treble side of the saddle, so I marked that out. I'll take it down to the belt sander and take that off of there now. I'm back in the New York groove. Okay, so I got the 1 millimeter tapered off of the treble side down on the radius disc sander. I didn't use the belt sander, but the radius disc sander doesn't leave a really flat bottom. So I just do let's do 4 swipes on this 120 grit with an MDF. And then, the really important thing, I believe that the piezo pickup, if I don't take this sharp corner off right here, this 90-degree corner, that the piezo will pick up the sound unevenly, because the saddle could get caught up inside of the slot on these sharp 90-degree edges. So I take that edge off and I put it back in. That's how I do it. Where'd my D string go? Has anybody seen my D string? Oh, it's in the hole. Alright. Doesn't that look nice? Very nice indeed. This is where all the strings go. All of the strings go here. I like to put them here. Guess what? Chicken butt. No, really. It looks like I did it again. It's so easy to play. And it sounds a lot better. So let's work on this heel cap. Well, actually, it's going to sound a lot better once I change the strings, because we have a D string instead of an A string here. And these two strings are rattling over the first fret because the neck is straighter now than it used to be. And some of these Martin strings, there's one string that's still, some of the windings are touching the saddle, and that's just because they have extra long windings. The D'Addario strings that I'm going to put on here have a much shorter wrap. So the other thing that I'm ready to do is the heel cap, which it took a couple hours for that bindall to cure really hard, and now it's pretty hard. I mean, it feels pretty hard. I guess I'm ready to take it back down to the bandsaw and the disc sander, and I guess I'm going to attach it to the heel area with the same bindall glue, because it softens the plastic. It actually, the glue, it will actually become part of the plastic almost. And I know it sticks to wood real good too, so that's what Gibson uses to put their binding on anyway, something similar, acetone based product, and that shit never falls off. So there's my little glue up going on there with the heel cap, just one clamp, and I can't say I've ever really held a guitar like this before in the Total Vise. It's kind of... Okay, I've got the heel cap within, I guess, about half a millimeter of perfect sizing, so I'm taking these needle files at a slight bevel and a little micro chisel here right up against the body where I couldn't get the file to go. We'll get this thing trimmed down. It's going to take a little while. I also like to use the little fret bevel file. It has a super fine tooth on it that is almost like using like 800 grit. The old water slide decal paper. This was vintage amber, right out of the old Stumac can. And then this here is the dirty amber, which is golden brown with vintage amber sprayed through Preval. And this is golden brown, and this is medium brown. So far this is the ticket. So we'll cut it out with scissors and then put it in a little tub of warm water for about a minute, and just slide it off the backer piece, and just kind of try to flatten it out and set it on a paper towel for about an hour to dry, just like Chelsea Clark and Dan Earlywine taught me on that old Stumac video I watched. I bought the decal paper right away, but I never had an opportunity to try it till now. My customer even recommended I use this method. Little lacquer retarder. I tried brushing on colored lacquer in the past, and it looks horrible. It's all streaky, and you can see the brush strokes. So you just brush on the lacquer retarder, or like Chelsea called it, and then put the sheet on, and just pray that you get it on with no bubbles. Well, this about concludes this guitar restoration video. I'd say she's about done. Just about. Well, now we got her looking good. And we got her sounding good too. But does she play good? Sounds all right. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you subscribing and going to my channel and checking out my store. So we'll we'll have a good weekend and we'll catch you later.